Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I built and designed my own home office desk. And I will also include a set of plans available for this if you want to build a desk just like it. Thanks. I didn't bother filming any of the glue up for the tabletop, but here I'm making runners to flatten the tabletop, and you'll see how I do that in just a second. After I finished making my runners, I then put them on my tabletop, which is a known flat surface, and I use those runners as a straight edge guide for my router sled. And I'm going to screw them to my tabletop to prevent them from sliding around. And once I've had it all set up, I then use any shims I need to flatten the tabletop, and then I set my depth and I start carving out the tabletop to remove any high spots. And if I have to do multiple passes, I'll do 2 or 3 passes in shallow depths. So here's a good angle to demonstrate exactly what's going on. So this rail is what that is riding on, there and there. And if I nick it, I don't care. It's trash to me. So this edge on the bottom, right here where it's resting, right here and right here, I know are flat edges. So as long as I keep that on here, it'll follow the thickness of the tabletop the whole way, all the way across. As you can see, some spots it's only about a 1/16 of an inch I'm taking off. But in spots like here, I did a first pass and it wasn't deep enough, so I went deeper, about here. And you can see it's pretty much even all the way across, about a 1/16 of an inch. And you can see in a couple spots, like right here, this end board, the glue up wasn't perfect. And you can see the difference in thickness here from, you know, a 1/16 to a 32nd. But once it's all done, it'll be nice and flat. After I finished using my router sled to get the tabletop down to my desired thickness, I then took a belt sander to remove any scratches that might have been left behind from the router. And then I did a quick pass with just 120 grit sandpaper to give it a rough finish. After I finished that main section of my tabletop, I then did the same exact steps to do the other wing of the L-shaped desk. And then I started prepping all of my pieces to build the actual base cabinet. For the face of this cabinet, I am gluing on some 3/4 oak, and I'm leaving it a little bit wider than the actual plywood, and then I'm using a flush trim bit to cut it off nice and clean. And I have these really awesome face clamps to attach it to the plywood without any screws or fasteners. Before any pieces are put together, this was all dry fitted and sanded to 120 grit. It's a lot easier to sand it when the pieces are not glued together and they're all flat. All right, nice piece of the puzzle going together. Okay, so this is the back side of my filing cabinet. So basically, this little bump here is gonna have a little drawer underneath of it, and then I'm gonna have filing cabinet drawers over here. But to have no wire clutter, my computer tower is gonna go here, and I'm gonna have a pass-through right here. So basically what I did is I cut a piece of PVC, I rounded over the inside so it's smooth, so there's no sharp edges for the wires to rub on, and then I just, with my router bit, very carefully chamfered this so this grommet, which is a standard 2-inch desk grommet, can fit over top. So basically this is just going to fit right through here on the inside of the cabinet, and it's going to be a pass-through for all of my wires coming from my computer tower into my wire trough for the countertop itself. Okay, so here you go. Computer tower is going to sit here, and I have this as a pass-through for all of my cables. And yeah, I did make sure that this is big enough for, well, really the only largest cable I would have is like the actual power cable. So the end of the cord just has to fit through this. And this is 2-inch PVC. So it's plenty big enough. So again, the black rings are just standard desk grommets. And it's just gonna come out through this side. And this is all gonna be probably glued together, but yeah. So I have a desk support here, which is also doubling as a wire trough. So it's coming down, over, and then up. So it's basically a little like J shape. So that's gonna hold all my cables, which run the length of my table. And then it's gonna have more of these grommets on the top of the table, so that wherever I need a wire to come up for a device, it's gonna come through this trough, along the back of the desk, then up through the top. Okay, so for the filing cabinet drawer, I didn't know exactly what the dimensions were required for these hanging folders. So I just went ahead and purchased them beforehand so I could make sure that I had enough space. So basically, they sell these little plastic or metal runners that sit on the top of the drawer sides. So there's one for each side, and you know, if you can imagine, this piece of plywood is the side of the cabinet. It just slides on like that and stays on the top of the drawer. So imagine it's just like that. Now, I didn't know exactly how much space I needed and how much depth I needed for these drawers to fit these folders. So basically what I did is I just did a mock-up just like this, and I figured for it to be the center, on the center of these little hooks where it slides on, I basically just did exactly this. I mocked it up, and then I basically measured. Now I measured from inside of this edge to the inside of this edge, because that's going to be face to face, and it was 12 1/4 is what I needed. So I made sure the inside diameter of my drawer was 12 1/4, and all I did for depth was I did the same exact thing. I put the folder on here, and with it hanging down, I just measured this way to the bottom of that drawer, or bottom of the envelope, to the top of here. And then I added a 1/2 inch for room underneath. After I finished up the lower cabinet, the last piece that I had to finish was adding the edging along the tabletop. The router trough and the legs have all been cut and edged, and this is the last piece. So for the desk, I forgot to film the rest of it, but I am doing the Rubio Monocoat Pre-Color in Urban Gray, and then I have the
Oil Plus 2C Pure, which is a two-part oil and accelerator. So once this is applied over top of this, it's going to give it a nice brownish gray tone. It's going to look really nice. Once you finish applying an even coat of this pre-color, it's easiest to work in an area that you can work in about 10 minutes. I did this half and then I did this half. Lay it on with a brush and then just take a lint-free cloth and you just, with the grain, rub it into the wood and you get a nice even coverage. And you'll see it kind of brighten up as it's being pushed in to the grain. Just kind of even it out as best as you can with the rag. And then it's going to dry for roughly 36 hours is recommended time for drying before this is going to get the oil coat on it. And then after 36 hours, if you have any raised grain, because this is a water-based product, this pre-color, you can hit it with, a high grit sandpaper, or I like to hit it with a scuff pad on my orbital sander to knock down any raised grain. That way I'm also not taking off any of this color. I don't have to worry about sanding through the color. That's why I like to use the scuff pads. And if you're interested in what kind of scuff pads I'm using, I will link them below so that you can try them out yourself if you don't have any. And then I'll show you how to apply the oil. It's been roughly 36 hours since I applied this pre-color, and now I am applying the oil. I first pre-mix it, both parts A and B, and then I'm just drizzling it on, and then I'm going to use a plastic squeegee or other type of scraper to level it out and put it across the entire surface. After I've thinned it out and squeegeed it across the entire surface, I'm then going to take my orbital sander, which has a scuffing pad on it, and work it into the grain. After I've finished scuffing it into the surface, I'm then waiting a few minutes, and I'm then going to take a clean rag and wipe off any excess that is on the table. Now that all the different components have been oiled, I'm then going to start pre-assembly. Here I am attaching the drawer faces to the drawers, and you can see I actually chiseled out the top of the drawer face to accept these metal pull hinges, or pulled knobs. I know there's a lot of details on this build that I didn't thoroughly go over, but if anybody has any questions on the build process, you can leave a comment and I will try as best as I can to answer it. Now we're moving on to the fun part. I did as much pre-assembly as I could, and now I am taking my old desk apart and cleaning up the area to assemble the new desk. Pretty much done. The computer stuff is going to be reconfigured. I got a stand to mount to the desk and a few grommets to put in, but everything fits nicely. I'll be redoing the the wiring to hook everything up to this. And I have my cable tray underneath to connect everything. I have to attach a few more clips for the tabletop underneath, but it's pretty much done. And that pass-through right there is to connect everything from the computer into here. Here's the finished setup. My computer is finally set up the way I want it. Everything's plugged in and wired up and neat and organized. And again, if you like this video, please like and subscribe if you made it all the way through. And if you want plans, they will be available. Thanks.